All right, we're on day 5 already, and today's puzzle is um, an extra region and also a clone puzzle. It's got a little bit of both. The standard version also is a Windoku puzzle, which Windoku is just a special form of extra regions where the extra regions are in these specific positions, which kind of looks like a window. So I think that's where the name comes from, I assume. But some general tips about extra regions are, so an extra region just means an area that's usually just shaded somehow. It could be just a gray area, or they might have specific colors, but it's an extra region that is also 9 cells in a 9 by 9 Sudoku. It could be 6 cells in a 6 by 6. And it just means that all the digits have to appear in that region, just like every digit has to appear in each box, each row, each column. All 9 digits have to appear in the extra region as well. So for example, here's just an example puzzle with 2 extra regions. So the things to think about here are the way these interact with the boxes, the rows, the columns. So with this specific one, one thing you might notice is that these 4 cells here, let's make them red. The red cells have to be different than these 5, which we're going to call yellow. Which, of course, obviously they do. But also, because this is a row, these 4, let's make them blue. So the blues have to be different than the yellows, and the reds have to be different than the yellows. So if you think about it, that means the reds have to be the same 4 digits as the blues. So these 4 reds have to be the same as these 4 reds, and obviously these two cannot be the same. So this one here, whatever this is, let's make that one blue again. Okay, so this blue one can't be in the yellows, can't be in this red over here, and can't be in those reds. It has to be in one of these 3. And similarly, this red here, let's make that green. The green one can't be in any of these and has to be in one of these 3 red ones up here. So that's some general ideas there. So things you can look for. For example, if you found that there was, let's see, a 1 right there, well, you would know that there would have to be a 1 in one of these 4. So that's one thing. Let's say you had maybe a 3 right here, and you found out there was a 1 up here. Well, now you know there has to be a 1 in one of these 3 reds, which tells you 2 things. One, that there can't be a 1 in any of these, and also that there can't be a 1 in any of these. So just think about how the different regions interact with the normal rows, columns, boxes, that sort of stuff. All right. Some other things related to clones. So let's just clear all that out. Let's draw a couple clones in here, just some simple clones. So if I said that this was cloned down here, for example. There we go, that's a clone. So that just means that if I put 1, 2, 3, and 4, whatever they are, these have to be the same 4 in the same place. They have to be a clone, exact matches of each other. So this is very similar to the palindrome stuff that we talked about a few days ago. What you want to do is consider the linked cells. For example, these 2, we'll make them red, the 2 reds. These have to be the same. So consider those in tandem here. You know, if we have a 1 here and a 2 here, neither one of these can be a 1 or a 2. So consider them as a pair, a linked pair, and think about them in tandem. This also creates some interesting things, the way things interact. Let's say, for example, you find that there has to be a 1 in one of those 2. However that works. Maybe there's a couple 1s over here. But you've decided that the 1 is in one of these 2 positions. So that means that obviously there's a 1 in one of those 2 positions. But that also means that there is a 1 in one of these 2 spots. Because there's either a 1 here, or there's a 1 here and there. So you can extend kind of this red. It's almost like a portal to jump to another part of the grid. So you can say that there is a 1 either here or here, which tells you that this cell up here cannot be a 1. Now let's look at that maybe just to make sure you can see that. So one option is that there's a 1 here, in which case the blue cannot be a 1. The other option is that there's a 1 here, which also puts a 1 there because they're clones, and therefore the blue cannot be a 1 again. So you get some of these weird connections between things where, because one of these two has to be a 1, also one of these two has to be a 1. And then if you start getting things like, if you find out that one of these two is a 1, now you've got even more because you've got a double clone here, or you got two options that are both on the clones. So if we make these blue, so there has to be a 1 in one of these two, which means there has to be a 1 in one of these two. But it also means you can take this blue and this red and rule out a 1 from that cell and this cell. So these two cannot be 1s in this situation, the greens. But also, there's a 1 in one of these two, so you can rule out 1s in both of these. So you get these weird interactions. So look for those. Consider the cloned cells in tandem. All right, that's my basic tips for clones and extra regions. I've got a little bit more that's specific to Windoku if it's a little more advanced and not necessary for this puzzle per se. But if you're interested, I've got a little more. If not, go try the puzzle before I get to the more advanced stuff that might make it more confusing for some people. All right, so Windoku. That means we have this specific set of extra regions. Now, what's really interesting about this arrangement is, let's look at rows or columns 2, 3, and 4 here. Make them green. So we know that there's 3 copies of the digits 1 through 9 in these 3 columns because you have to have 1 through 9 in every column. We also know that there is a copy of one copy of 1 through 9 in this region and 1 copy of 1 through 9 in this region. So we have 1 through 9 in the red, 1 through 9 in the blue, and all together we have to have 3 of each digit, which means these 9 green cells are essentially another region that also have the digits 1 through 9. Now we can do the same thing, of course, with these columns, and then the same thing with the rows. So what that means, I'm going to uncolor these. What that means is this green is 1 through 9. These, we'll call them blue, are all essentially an extra region that takes 1 through 9. These 9 all have to have the digits 1 through 9. These, what haven't we used yet? Let's do red. So each of those colored regions is also the digits 1 through 9. And what you may have noticed now is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 with the squares, 5 with the gold, 6 with the green, 7 with the blue, and 8 with the red. So we've got 8 sets of 1 through 9, but a 9x9 Sudoku has 9 sets of 1 through 9. So we have 9 cells left over. So these 9 also have to have all the digits 1 through 9. So that doesn't always help necessarily, but it can be helpful. If, for example, you know that there's a 2 right here. Well, we can't have a 2 anywhere else in the red, because the 9 red cells have to have 1 copy of each of the digits 1 through 9. It can also help the opposite way. If you know there's a digit there, you can rule it out, but you could also say, I don't know, maybe you have a 2 here and here. So now we know there's no 2 in any of these reds, so there has to be a 2 in one of these 3 reds, which isn't entirely obvious if you just have those 2 digits that there has to be a 2 over here. So this can be very helpful. It also means things like the two corners can't be the same. We couldn't have two twos here. Which kind of makes sense because a 2 up here means you can't have a 2 in these blues or these greens. And a 2 up here means you can't have a 2 in these blues and these greens. So it forces a 2 in there and a 2 in there, and you can't have two 2s in the same row. So that's a more advanced technique, I feel like. It's not always easy to see. I don't even think to look for it half the time, but it is kind of cool. It's a pretty neat property of this type of puzzle. So it could come in handy. It might give you something else to look at if you get stuck using other strategies. So there you go. That's some interesting stuff on Windokus. Hope you enjoyed today's puzzle, and I'll see you again tomorrow.